All right, welcome to the first chapter of Groups, Process, and Practice, 10th edition. I'm just going to go ahead and go through the slides for you and try to anticipate any information or questions that you might have. Our learning objectives are to briefly introduce the major topics of group work, describe the types of groups and other considerations that affect conducting groups in varied settings, and identify the key aspects of brief group therapy. Introduce some basic ideas of multicultural perspectives on group work, discuss what is involved in becoming a culturally skilled group worker, and identify ethical and culturally relevant strategies for designing and facilitating groups. So groups are definitely an excellent treatment choice to help people change. Groups are the treatment of choice, especially in the addiction world. And groups provide a natural laboratory and sense of community, demonstrating to people that they are not alone. Participants have the opportunity to try out different strategies for resolving their long-term problems. The group process includes all of the elements that are basic to the unfolding of a group from the beginning to the end. So establishing group norms, generating trust and cohesion, conflict and reluctance, intermember feedback, healing forces within the group, and stages of group development. There are a variety of groups that are available. We have the task group aims to foster accomplishing identified work goals. Psychoeducational group aims to provide members with targeted education on a variety of psychological issues or informational deficits. Counseling groups aims at preventive and educational purposes, utilizes methods of interactive feedback within a here and now time framework. Psychotherapy groups, the aim of which is to remediate in-depth psychological problems, reconstructing personality dimensions. And then brief groups, time-limited structured groups with clear ground rules. In brief group therapy, it's time-limited, structured, lasts 2 to 3 months, and consists of 8 to 12 weekly sessions. Facilitators need training in group process and brief therapy. And the advantages of brief group therapy, well suited to the needs of both clients and managed care, cost effective, widely applicable to diverse client populations and problems, and can be used in different settings. Multicultural perspective on group work. Multicultural, basically you just have any two human beings together and it becomes multicultural. If you add two members and the facilitator, it is definitely multicultural. You know, there's such varied traits even among group ethnic cultures that are the same that it's still going to be multicultural. So it's really important to understand the people, places, and things that you're working with. Culture encompasses the values, beliefs, and behaviors shared by a group of people. Culture is learned in groups. Effective group work involves considering culture of participants. Cultural similarities and differences need to be addressed in a group. Multicultural perspective on group work continued, and culturally skilled group counselors need to be aware of their own personal values, attitudes, biases, assumptions, and prejudices. Have a general knowledge about the ways diverse backgrounds of members may affect the group process, and be able to implement interventions that are appropriate for the life experiences of the group members. You know, currently I work at ARC treatment program. ARC has its own culture. It's a Christian-based, faith-based treatment program. And then the individuals that attend it come from a variety of backgrounds. Some come from Lexington, some comes from Georgetown, Louisville. We also have people who come from, Harlan and different rural counties. And so even though almost all of the people who attend tend to be Euro-Asian descent, there still is a lot of variety with where they come from, even within Kentucky. And so there are different backgrounds, etc. And when I'm working with them, I'm actually coming from Ohio, Northwest Ohio, and so my culture is different as well. And ultimately, all my experiences, I've been all over the world, I've been a Marine, all of these things go into my personal values, attitudes, biases, assumptions, and prejudices. Okay? So I need to be aware of all those as I work with people. The goals of multicultural group work to promote human development and to enhance interpersonal relationships, promote task achievement, to prevent or identify and remediate mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders and associated distress that interfere with mental health, to lessen the risk of distress, disability, or loss of human dignity, autonomy, and freedom. Becoming a culturally skilled group counselor means that multicultural and social justice counseling competencies are there. The helping professions continue to emphasize monocultural approach to training and practice. Referrals based on value conflicts between leaders and members are considered inappropriate and unethical. And achieving cultural competence is a lifelong journey. Uh, Multicultural and diversity settings, beliefs and attitudes of culturally skilled group workers, knowledge of culturally skilled group workers, and skills and intervention strategies of culturally skilled group workers. You know, it's been a huge part of my training in understanding multicultural perspectives is actually getting to know them, getting to know different cultures, getting to know different faiths, getting to know expectations, you know, uh, space issues. So a variety of issues occur with working with different cultures. I've been all over the United States working in mental health settings and with different groups, and there are a variety of different boundaries associated with different cultures. So the more that you can understand about a culture, the better off you are. And to know that you can never know everything about a culture is also important. And it's okay if you make a mistake, it's okay, just own it and try to proceed with it. If you need to work through it with the client that you made a mistake with, and then take the time to do so. It's really important. Understand your own racial and cultural identity, recognize and be open about your racial biases, encourage a discussion about feelings, pay more attention to the process than to the content of race talk, and encourage and support people who are willing to take the risk of expressing themselves. You know, that's key to understanding and facilitating difficult conversations. People are allowed to have their own opinions. And, when you work with a diverse group, you may have very opposing opinions about things. Everything from LGBTQ communities to racial issues to, views of the presidents, politics, etc. And so learning how to have a conversation about these things rather than an argument about them is very important. And so that was a very quick run through of what you can expect from chapter 1. And so I am going to close that one. And then we have chapter 2. And so chapter 2, the group counselor, this would be you. Learning objectives, explore common issues facing beginning group counselors, identify characteristics and functions of effective group leaders, describe the major skills required for effective group facilitation, and provide a rationale for and an approach to self-assessment of group leadership skills. Discuss some ways to select a co-leader and to best work together. Present the advantages of co-leadership of a group and present the disadvantages of co-leadership of a group. Introduce the value of a research orientation in group work. Consider the status of group research from an international perspective. Elaborate on research on common factors in group work. Demonstrate how research can enhance group practice. And illustrate the challenge of combining research and practice. So the group counselor as a person. Some personal characteristics of effective group leaders. Courage, willingness to model, presence, goodwill, genuineness, and caring, belief in the group process, openness, non defensiveness in coping with criticism, and becoming aware of subtle culture issues. And so, courage is important because you have to be able to step in when needed. You need to be able to model what's going on, both as a participant and as a facilitator. You know, um, ideally, the you're facilitating the group, and so you are showing them how to interact with one another, and they're learning how to follow and be guided. And so it's important to be able to model that. Being respectful when somebody is being disrespectful in group, being able to talk to one another and showing them how to do that. Having your presence there, goodwill, genuineness, and caring. Those are key factors of being a facilitator. You have to believe in the group process, and what it's actually there for and how it's actually being done. Being able to be open with the group as well. Taking their criticism and of course being able to see when there's a cultural issue coming up, and sometimes they're very subtle. And we're going to continue with personal characteristics. Being able to identify with the client's pain, so empathy. Personal power, knowing that even though there's a group and you're the facilitator, you have power there. So what you say and what you do and how you act is really important, because it may any suggestions that you may give or any ways that you behave could really influence the person within the group. Stamina. It takes a lot of energy to provide groups. Commitment to self-care. That's key to being a healthy counselor in general, is self-care. Self-awareness. And sometimes this is really hard because you aren't always aware of some biases that may not be just very obvious. You may have very subtle biases that you don't even aren't even aware of, that you may end up coming out during the group process. And so it's very important that you are self-aware. Having a sense of humor is always important, and being able to have a plan and then go with something else if something happens during group. So inventiveness and flexibility. And then finally, personal dedication and commitment. The group counselor, as a professional, it's really important that we are able to create a group climate that fosters interpersonal norms such as openness, directness, respect, and concern for one another, which will lead to the therapeutic interactions among the members. The leadership, the facilitator and leader's interpersonal skills, genuineness, empathy, and warmth are significant variables in creating that kind of climate. So as you go through this, it's always nice, if you are going to work towards being a group facilitator, that you work with somebody who is experienced. I mean, that's one of the best ways to learn how to do that, and especially somebody who's experienced but also does a really good job. You're going to have to acquire and refine your skills, and one of the things that I often tell my master students is that you are already a counselor. You have everything who you are is what makes you a counselor, your personality. And so skills become a part of your personality, and your personality absorbs those skills. Learning how to use group skills is an art. And finally, skills are learned through supervised experience, practice, feedback, and participation as a member. Group leadership skills include active listening, the ability to reflect, clarifying statements, summarizing, facilitating, empathizing, interpreting, questioning, linking things, and confronting. A lot of times we do these ones pretty well, but this one can be pretty hard. This is where it takes courage. Supporting, blocking, assessing, modeling, suggesting, initiating, evaluating, and eventually terminating. So, using a co-leadership model, so you and another facilitator, the advantages are decreases the chance of burnout because one person isn't doing all the work. You're sharing it with the responsibility of the other co-leader. It's less overwhelming to respond to the needs of the group. The co-leader peer supervision is beneficial, can be helpful in managing countertransference. So if you have somebody else that you're working with, then you know certain members are going to be drawn to each of you, and then some of your countertransference issues you may not be aware of. Your co-facilitator may be able to help you out with that, and it gives somebody else a chance to interact with people that maybe you are having countertransference with. Co-leader can help process members' reactions to the other leader, and if one leader is absent, the group can still meet with the other. So those are some advantages. Most of the disadvantages in co-leading groups have to do with poor selection of a core leader, the random assignment to another leader, and failure of the two leaders to meet regularly. So it's really important for the co-leadership to have communication and to work well. Developing a research orientation to the practice. Group therapy has been shown to be as effective as individual treatment and in some cases is more effective. So for instance, especially with addiction, it's been found to be more effective because addiction is a disorder. Substance use disorders are disorders in which isolation is prevalent. And so a lot of times people go into treatment thinking that they are the only ones who have experienced this issue. And when they see that there is a group of people who are trying to get better from the same disorder, then it tends to help. And that goes for schizophrenia, it goes for a lot of other mental health issues that the group is actually very effective in working through and working on the disorder itself. Cognitive behavior therapy and psychodynamic therapy are models most in use worldwide, and the common factors approach focuses on the value of common elements across theoretical systems. Research confirms that the client-therapist relationship is central to therapeutic change, and brain imaging technology in the emerging field of interpersonal neurobiology confirms that healing changes can occur in the brain. It actually can affect changes within the brain. Practice-based evidence, collecting data directly from members about their group experience. And finally, putting it all together, the challenge of combining research and practice allows group practitioners to remain flexible and responsive to new evidence, allows group practitioners to critically evaluate new developments in the field of group work, and finally, process and outcomes focused research of groups can help demonstrate accountability. The challenge of combining research and practice also has the lack of collaboration between researchers and practitioners continues to be a key problem in group work, and that goes for any type of mental health and counseling. Often the research may not always match the practice, and vice versa. And so, and that's why it leads to some of the problems in group work. Although experimental studies may have internal validity, they may have very little practical group value to the actual people providing the service. Practitioners and researchers need to develop mutual respect for what each can offer and increase their collaboration. And that is the second chapter. As you can see, they're usually pretty brief. When you are taking your test, please use your textbook, okay? And a lot of times when you're looking up a term or there's a term on the test, either looking it up in the index or looking for it bold-faced in the chapter that your test is on is helpful. And so with that, please, if you have any questions, email me or contact me so that I know that you have questions. And that's it. Hope you all have a good week. And next Monday, I will open up the next week. and then I will fill in with new videos for the next chapter. Okay? So have a good day and talk to you soon.